used a single Solex 40 JFF2 downdraft, German, Vollstrom, carburetor, 40, and earlier V12s used 2.41. Later V12s used Solex 52 JFFs. A hand-cranked inertia starter, Schwungkraftanlasser, was fitted to the V12 engines to supplement the Bosch 24V electric starter motor, powered by two 12V batteries, in cold weather. 42, nomenclature. DSO8. An exception to the detailed naming system described below is the Maybach DSO8 V12 engine fitted Toyota SD.KFZ8S. It was derived from the DS7, German, Doppelsex 7, i.e. double 6, 7 liters, fitted in the Maybach Zeppelin luxury car from 1929, a 7.0-liter, 6,971 cc, V12 engine that produced 150 horsepower at 2,800 rpm, 43, and from the later DS8 8-liter, bore x/92*100 mm, 44, 7,977 cc, 486 cubic inches, which developed 200 bhp, 149 kilowatts, 203 ps, at 3,200 rpm. 45. The engine block and pistos were made of light aluminium alloy with cast iron liners. 44. A 1938 Maybach Zeppelin DS8 also fitted with a Maybach Vario X vacuum shift 8-speed gearbox. Both the first 8-speed and first 8-speed manual gearbox, sold at auction in 2012 for €1.3 million. 46. John Mills mentions two versions of the DSO8, one with a power output of 150 bhp fitted to the prototype DBZ-D5 as early as 1931, and one of 200 bhp found in the early production SD.KFZ8. DBS7, from 1934 to 1936. 47. A DSO8 developing 155 ps at 2,600 rpm was also recommended for export models of the Panzer III MKA, Mittlerer Kampfwagen für Ausland, in August 1937. Since the proposed 200 PS Maybach HL76 was slow to come into production, 48, and may never have reached series production at all. The DSO8 also powered three Swedish Stridsvagn M/31 prototypes in the early 1930s. A 150 HP DSO8 is also found in the STRVFM/31 Landsverk L30 dating from 1931. Examples of both are preserved in the Arsenalen Forsvarsvårdens Museum in Strängnäs, Central Sweden. 49, 50, I. Introduction. Maybach used a series of letter codes and numbers to identify specific engine models, namely NL/HL performance, TU/TR lubrication, K clutch, R/RV bell drive for compressor and /or radiator fans, M magneto ignition. Although these codes usually indicate what ancillary equipment was fitted at the factory, for example the HL42 Tucum and the HL57TR, there are some exceptions, discussed below. The individual engine number and its capacity, the model type, and year of manufacture are hand-stamped on each crankcase. On 6-cylinder models with magneto ignition, this information is found on the magneto housing, E.G. 51, motor NR 730,192 4,198 ccm. HL42 Tucar M 1943 and on the HL210 SAD Smiley 52, Mo. NR 46,302 HL210 P45 Performance. NL equals Normalleistung, normal performance motor. HL equals Hochleistung, high performance motor. This is followed, without space, by the approximate engine capacity. For example, HL42 equals approximate 4.2 liters. Compared to the NL motors, the HL high performance series had a higher compression ratio, which increased the power output. This advantage was somewhat lost when a mandatory requirement to run on lower quality ounce 74 octane gasoline after October 1938 necessitated the compression ratio of the HL series to be lowered, achieved by fitting shorter pistons and a new cylinder head. 53. This may partially explain the similar power outputs of engines with different capacities, shown in the table further below. Lubrication. TR equals Trockensumpfschmierung, dry sump lubrication, generally fitted to tanks, because of low ground clearance, and to the SD.kfz 10 and 250 half tracks. There is no sump below the crankcase. The engine oil is contained in a reservoir on one side. On later V12s there is a tunnel through the oil reservoir, through which the hand crank for the inertia starter passes, operated from the outside rear of the vehicle. 54. In a number of cases, especially the dry sump tank engines, E.G. the HL108TR, thighs is the complete designation of an engine. In other words, there is no factory-fitted clutch, K, attached to the engine, no extra drive belts driving a compressor, R, and forward/or dual fans, R, on custom pulleys. Ignition is achieved by a magneto driven off the cam's haft, stew or well, rather fitted in its own housing, M, Schnappermagnet-Sundung, and no specific vehicular installation, P, S, or Z, is implied. Tu equals 2 for undertail, deep lower part, i.e. wet sump, only fitted to some half tracks. Thesium generally has an inverted triangle shape, bolted to the underneath of the crankcase housing. Most of the TU, wet sump, type engines were installed in half-track artillery tractors SD.kfz 6, 7, 8, 9 and 11, and were fitted with some or all of the ancillaries, K, R, or M. There appear, nevertheless, to be exceptions. For example, the HL57 TU was apparently only installed in some versions of the SD.kfz 7, which was in fact fitted with a factory clutch, integral compressor and magneto. The extra equipment was fitted as standard and the extra letter codes were not included in the model number. J. In addition, T by itself has no meaning. It is always directly followed by either R or U, but R in this position should not be confused with an R, signifying a V-belt drive for a compressor, see below. Furthermore, in some sources engines may be referred to simply as, for example, a Maybach HL120 of 300 metric horsepower, which indicates that further information is needed to identify the particular model number. Transmission. K equals Kupplung or Kupplungshaus, clutch housing. A clutch is attached directly to the flywheel end of the crankshaft, generally driving a manual gearbox with 4 forward speeds and 1 reverse, plus a high forward/low reduction gearbox, giving 8 forward and 2 reverse ratios, 4 + 1x2. This type of transmission was fitted to all the half-tracks with a TU-type engine, 55, and Toili Panzer is. The transmission could also have a rear power takeoff, PTO, shaft-fitted top power, a winch, or turntables for either a gun or crane on, for example, the SD.kfz 9 /1. 56. The SD.kfz 10 had a unique arrangement with a conventional clutch attached to the engine driving a preselector Maybach Vario X VG100 and 2128H gearbox. 57. See also compressor below. Panzer III engine and Maybach Vario X preselector gearbox, in German. Click picture for English translation. If there is no factory-fitted clutch, K, this indicates a tank engine, except early Panzer is. Instead, a horizontal cardan shaft connects the flywheel to a separate gearbox next to the driver. This could be a pneumatically controlled pre-selector Maybach Varia X, for example certain Panzer IIIs and Stug 3, or a synchronous ZF Affen, for example later Panzer III and Force, or a hydraulically controlled Maybach Olva, for example Tiger I and II. A 10-speed Maybach Varia X SRG 328 145 gearbox, K, was fitted in Panzer III Source e.g., 58, operated by vacuum pressure generated by a compressor, see next section. The main clutch is integral to the gearbox housing. 59, see also diagram on right. Other tank gearboxes included the synchronous ZF Affen SSG, L, 5X and 7X series gearboxes. The SSG 75 fitted in early Panzer IV had 5 forward gears and on the Airbus SAD Smiley 61. The 76 and 77 had 6 forward and 1 reverse. The main clutch, Hauptkupplung, LA 120 HD, was bolted to the gearbox on the SSG 75, and incorporated into the main housing in the 77. 62. The SSG 77 gearbox replaced the mechanically vulnerable Varia X in the Stug 3 OSF. C. 63, 64. Bigger tank engines, E.G. The HL230, used a hydraulically controlled Maybach Olva gearbox such as the Olva EG 4012-16, 8 forward gears, 4 reverse, fitted to Tiger IS and IIS. 65, 66, 67. Some half-track gearboxes also included a power takeoff shaft, PTO, driving an external winch, German, Seilwinde. M. Compressor. Most of the half-track engines had a compressor fitted, to power various types of equipment, discussed below. In some cases the compressor was an integral part of the engine's design and not specifically indicated in the model number. In others, the compressor was an external belt-driven ancillary denoted BN, in the model number. R equals Riemann Trieb für Luftpressor, V belt drive for air compressor, driven at the radiator end by a pulley with an extra groove. The compressor is connected to various types of equipment, including Panzer III OSF, e.g., and Stug 3 OSF. Only 20 made, Maybach Varia X SRG 328,145 pre-selector gearbox. SD.KFZ10 and 250 Varia X VG 102.128H pre-selector G /box. SD.KFZ11 and 251 air brakes on towed equipment, for example Pack 40 anti-tank gun. SD.KFZ69 pneumatic foot forward /parking brake and towed equipment, 68. For example 15 cm signal 33 towed by the SD.KFZ7, 69. On certain Panzer IIIs, and Stug 3, and on the SD.KFZ10 with its derivative the SD.KFZ.250, the compressor provided the reverse pressure for a pneumatically operated pre-selector gearbox. To shift gears, the pre-selector lever is set in the desired position or slot and then the clutch pedal is depressed and released. The air inlet of the compressor is connected to the system, not the outlet. The compressor works in reverse to create a vacuum. Inside the Varia X gearbox, there are vacuum-actuated pistons with attached selector forks. These move dog clutches, which select the desired gearing. 59. On some engines, for example the NL38T UK, the compressor was an integral part of the engine, driven by internal gears and mounted on top of the cam cover at the flywheel end. In similar fashion, on the HL57TU and 62T UK the compressor was located in a gear-driven housing next to the clutch on the inlet side. 70. On other models where the compressor was fitted as an ancillary, For example HL38 Tuca, it was mounted on one or other side of the engine, driven by an extra V-belt at the radiator end. Thus the lack of fanar in the model number doesn't necessarily mean that a compressor wasn't fitted. Kr equals clutch and compressor. Production versions of the Demag half tracks, the SD.KFZ10, manufacturer type D7, and SD.KFZ250, D7P, were fitted with a Maybach SRG, type VG102128H, with 7 forward and 3 reverse gears. 55, 71, 72, although they worked on the same vacuum principle as the bigger tank pre-selector gearboxes, for example Varia X SRG 328145 installed in Panzer III OSF. E.g., these gearbox types had no integral clutch, and were much smaller than those fitted to tanks. The drive passed through a standard clutch attached to the engine via a cardan shaft into the gearbox. Depressing and releasing the clutch pedal simultaneously disengaged the main clutch and actuated the vacuum pistons to engage the preselected gear ratio. 57, 73, 74. KR equals clutch, compressor, and extra belt drives for radiator fans, fitted to a number of SD.KFZ 251 variants, which had a different radiator from the unarmored SD.KFZ11 on which it was based. 75, 55, a triple V-belt pulley mounted at the top of the engine also drove the twin cooling fans mounted directly between the engine and the radiator. 76, ignition. All Maybach engines used a Bosch 12-volt magneto for the ignition. There were two main types driven off the camshaft, stool well, or the camshaft pinion, located at the top of the engine at the flywheel end. This type of magneto can often be identified at the top of the engine at the flywheel end by a circular, slightly domed cover, and a tubular duct, sometimes corrugated, which fed the ignition leads out of sight behind an engine cover plate. This type of installation, stool well magnet sundown, was part of the standard specification and note included in the model letters, E.G.HL98T UK. This applies to some 6-cylinder models, 78, and or V12S. 79. On the HL210 the two magnetos are driven off the ends of the camshafts, and in the HL230 they are centrally located between the cylinder heads. M equals Schnapper magnet sundown, impulse magneto ignition. P. Some 6-cylinder models had his type of magneto in its own housing, driven off the starter ring on the flywheel, located on the right-hand side. 40. This type of installation is indicated with an M in the model number E.GHL42 2CARM.Q. A number of engines of the same basic design were first fitted with the cams half-driven, stool well type and later with the Schnapper type, for example HL62TR/TRM. Most models were also fitted with a belt-driven Bosch generator /dynamo for charging the batteries for the 24-volt electric starter motor, lighting, etc. On 4 and 6-cylinder engines the generator was usually connected by a drive shaft to a separate coolant pump located close to the cylindrical oil cooler. Installation. P equals Panterkampfwageninbau, tank installation. Z equals Zestorierenbau, tank destroyer installation. R. S equals Schlepperinbau, military tractor installation. S. These letters were only used on some models, for example HL42TRKMS, HL45Z, HL157P. The HL230-30P and 45P don't appear to fall into this category, being named according to their original project specification. The HL230-30P was designed to be fitted in the Panther, whose prototype was the 30-ton class VK30.02, and the HL230-45P went in the Tiger, whose final 45-ton class prototype was numbered VK45.01.83. Examples: NL38 TRKM equals normal performance 3.8 liters.